Hello and welcome to Mile White Crafts. It's August here in New England, which means it's about time to start thinking about going back to school. So today's craft is making a book cover, and in our case we're going to be covering a notebook. So this particular book cover has two sides. It's got the outside, it has a lining on the inside, and you can kind of see the lining fabric here underneath. This particular version also has a pocket that you can use for a schedule or a short ruler or even maybe a pencil or two if you didn't choose to make the pencil case with this. It's reversible, so if you don't happen to feel like pink, you can turn it the other way around and put the cover on the blue side instead. If you're going to make this reversible, I will tell you right now, make sure that the ribbon that you use for your bookmark is also reversible. So let's get started with this craft. Here in this case we're going to be covering a notebook, and to do that we're going to create a reversible book cover with two different fabrics that are coordinating prints. So one day you might feel like you're pink, one day you might feel like you're a bit blue, and so you can decide which cover you want on the outside that particular day. It will also have a ribbon tie that will come down so that you can use it as a bookmark to mark where you are in the notebook. So let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take some measurements. This particular style of book cover will work for notebooks like this one, but it'll also work for textbooks, so you just have to make sure that you take your own measurements and adjust the measurements accordingly, and I'll tell you how to do that as we go along. So the first thing that we need to do, we need to measure how big the book is. So in this case, this measures about 10 5/8 inches across from top to bottom on the cover. And then our book cover is going to start on the inside here, come out, wrap around the back, and wrap around a little bit into the back cover as well. So we're going to take the measurement of the book itself and then add on a bit for the wraps that go underneath. So when we measure this, go all the way around, it's a bit difficult to see on the side, so we'll flip it over, and it measures to about 17 and a half. We'll call it 17 and a half just to give it a little bit of extra wiggle room there, because you want to be able to get the cover on easily. So now that we've done that, I took a look at the cover and I decided that I wanted 4-inch flaps to hold the sides in place, and that works for me. Generally between a half and a third, so you could go as small as this if you wanted to. I wouldn't go much smaller than that just because the sides of this are going to fall out. I chose 4 inches because it's a soft cover, so it's rather flexible. And so the 4-inch overlap here in the pocket that will form will hold the cover in place without falling apart. So the next thing that you need to do is a little bit of math. So we have a few measurements here and we'll need to do a little bit of math. If you remember, the notebook going around from this edge of the cover down underneath to the bottom edge of the cover was measured 17 and a half. We decided that we were going to do 4-inch pockets for the book to fit into. So for our measure to go around the book, we need a piece of fabric that's going to be 4 inches for the front cover, 17 and a half to go around the notebook, 4 inches for the back cover. We add them all up and we get 25 and a half inches. Top to bottom on the book cover was 10 5/8. That's all well and good, but we still need to add seam allowance. So that's what we're going to do next. And here we have the math for the seam allowance. I decided to use 1/4 inch seam allowance. If you are likely to be a bit rough on your book covers, you might want to add slightly bigger seam allowances just so it doesn't fall apart. But I think a 1/4 inch will work for this particular job. So we have a 1/4 inch on the front cover side. We have our book cover with the pockets, and then we have another 1/4 inch for the back of the cover. And so 25 and a half plus another 1/2 inch gives you 26 inches. That's going to be our cut measurement for the horizontal length of our fabric. For the vertical length, we have our 10 5/8. I added another 1/2 inch, which is the 1/4 inch at the top, 1/4 inch at the bottom, so that is 4/8, which is also a 1/2 inch. If you add it up, you get 10 9/8, and you simplify the fraction properly, it's 11 1/8 inch, and I don't like measuring eighths of an inch, so I just called it 11 1/4 inches. So our finished fabric, when we cut our pieces, will be 26 inches wide by 11 1/4 inches high. So you'll have a rectangle that's 26 inches by 11 1/4 inches that you need to cut. If you are doing this reversible, as I am, you'll want to cut 2 rectangles then. So your 2 rectangles will each measure 26 inches wide and then 11 1/4 inches. As it happens, I already have some of that fabric cut. Let's take a look. So I have 2 pieces here. Because I'm doing this as a reversible cover, I have the blue side and I have the pink side. And to make your basic book cover, let's zoom back out here so you guys can kind of see what we're doing. There we go. To make a basic book cover, you're just going to sew a seam all the way around the outside edge, a 1/4 inch in or whatever you use for your seam allowance. Remember to leave a gap so that you can turn it. So these are right sides together. We're just going to run a seam all the way around the outside and turn it right side out. Now, that's for a basic book cover. I'm going to put a pocket in mine. So for our book cover, basically what this is going to look like, I'm going to take this out just so we can kind of get an idea of how it looks when we put it together. This is our book cover. This is our notebook. And the book cover will wrap around this way. And just pick this up here. Our book cover will wrap around the inside, so you can see that's where the pocket will be. For me, I've chosen to make this a little bit more interesting, and I'm going to stitch a pocket to add to the inside here, so you can store, if you wanted to store, say, a class schedule or a short ruler or something else that would fit inside a notebook. You could even stick a couple of pencils or something in there if you needed to. I've cut an extra piece of fabric that is the same 11 1/4 high, and this is 6 inches wide. So when it folds over, you'll have a nice little 3-inch pocket that will fit inside your notebook this way. Okay, so let's take a look at how this looks when it gets all layered up before we sew it together. We have the outside, what will be the outside layer. We have our pocket, which goes on this side. We have our ribbon, which goes down the center here. And we have our lining fabric, which goes on like this. Sorry about the arm there, but it's hard to reach otherwise. And then you're just going to pin it and stitch all the way around. I recommend leaving the gap over here because it's fairly centrally located and you don't have to worry about putting the ribbon in later because the ribbon is going to be pinned in up there. Okay, so this is all stitched together. I flipped it over so that I can see where the pins are so that I don't poke myself when I turn this. I've left this gap here for turning, and you can see I've trimmed the corners so to reduce the bulk in the corners. So I'm just going to turn this right side out. When you're doing this, I generally like to leave a turning hole that's big enough for my hand but not super big because you're just going to have to close it later. When I turn this, I will frequently find the pins first and pull them out. So you can see there's another pin down here. I'll find the head of it and just pull it out. And there should be one more for the ribbon, which is over here. And we'll find the head and pull it out. When I turn it, I generally try and turn the corners first, just to make sure that they're all properly poked out. So there's a corner, I'll put my thumb on there and just kind of turn it inside out like that. Now this isn't fully poked out yet, but because I haven't turned everything, I can kind of reach in there and poke it out a bit. If you need to, if it's a little bit stubborn, you can take a pin and pull it out, or use a bodkin or a pencil. Although I'm not sure I would use a pencil on this fabric just because the point might go through and make a hole. So I've turned one corner there. So now I can pull that back through. It's turned, and I'm not turning it right inside out again. I'm just kind of leaving it where it was. I just want to be able to find some of the other corners and do them too. So again, there's the corner. Put my finger inside the corner. Put my thumb on the outside and just flip it inside out. Put that back in. Find the fourth corner. It's a good thing these things only have 4 corners, right? There we go. Poke that out. There we have it. And then we can just pull it all to the right side. And do this gently because you don't want to stretch your fabric at the opening, and you don't want anything to tear. So we have our lining, we have our pocket, which we're going to flip to the pink side just because I wanted the blue pocket on the pink side. Poke the corners out again because I'm turning the pocket the other way. Now this pocket is actually reversible too. So if you decided that you want it on the blue side, you can turn it out that way. Now there's a little bit of a random bit of thread here. Let's trim that off carefully. Okay, so we have this, we have this. Make sure everything is turned out nicely. And we have the ribbon that's up here. I'll just arrange this one so that this ribbon goes to the inside like this. Next step is to press this and top stitch all the way around the outside, and while I'm top stitching I'm going to catch this opening and close it. Okay, so here we have the finished book cover. This is the outside. You can see the side with a pocket. We have the ribbon bookmark here, and it's all top stitched and beautiful. You may want to add a little bit more seam allowance top and bottom than I did, just simply because this was a little bit tight getting in. But otherwise it's a beautiful book cover. It will keep notebooks or textbooks fresh and clean and safe all year long, and you'll never lose your notebook because it doesn't look like anybody else's. I hope you've enjoyed this craft. If you have, please hit the like button down below. And I will have instructions on this written up on my blog page as a tutorial. If you like these, come see me at the farmer's market if you don't want to make your own, because I'll have some to sell. If you're not local and like these, send me an email and we can figure out a way to get one to you if you want one. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.